So here it is, the 21st episode of Apothecary Diaries. We are actually almost done with the season. Being the fact that it's slated for 24 episodes, having an episode like this was actually a very comedic one with a tidbit of clues here and there, just, small little things. We'll definitely go through that and see what you guys think. First things first, this one was a very cool moment. Maomao actually helping out the first physician, doctor, whatever you want to say, part of the rear palace that she was in at the beginning of this series. We actually learn more about him. He himself was from a rich family that was making paper, but all that changed when the emperor's mother made a decree to stop cutting down trees. And so, of course, his family's in the paper making business. That kind of hurt their financial aspects, which made him have to be employed by the palace and become a eunuch, because they would make more money by him going in than one of his sisters, which is a shame, losing his member. I'm sure that because of how severe that is, I'm sure that added to the profit and money that he could bring back to his family. Lo and behold, Maomao helps him out, which is pretty cool because she, through experimenting and through knowing her properties of herbs and how things all work, she was able to deduce what they're using to make paper as far as their gluing agent. And long story short, this guy was dumb. This guy wasn't as able to dot everything and line everything up like everyone else normally is. See, we've already established that Maomao's way of doing things is to lead people by the nose. And so she was trying to do the same thing to him, like, hey, look at this experiment. Ooh, look, what does that tell you? How can that apply to your life? This dude's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So for once, she actually had to spell out what she's trying to do here. She's like, look, you got oxen, find out what they're doing. Apparently their saliva is probably getting into the water, so thus getting into their paper making. So thus the paper is not as strong as it should be thanks to their saliva. So of course, that actually could help his family out to start going back and making more money for the palace, because they were soon going to lose their status as like the exclusive paper makers for the palace. So now, hey, sometimes it's all in who you know. So this guy, he himself and his family might get back to being very, very rich, all thanks to Maomao, if it all works out the way that's supposed to be intended. But getting to the meat of the episode, it would have to do with Maomao and Lihaku. So of course, Lihaku's in love with one of, how Maomao calls them, her sisters from the brothel that she was actually coming up in. Being the fact that it's a high status brothel, he of course wants to get in close and purchase out his love parent. So of course he has his mind set on her. And so Maomao was like, you know what? Let me go in and try to see what I can do. And this moment was very reminiscent of, like, I don't know if this has happened to you guys, but you're a guy and you're, favoring a certain girl, and then you go over to try to, take her out and everything. And then this is the moment where the rest of the family, like her sisters, are trying to size you up and be like, are you good enough to go with one of my sisters? I don't know. So she's over here kind of like, take off your clothes and let me see if you're actually worthy enough to actually be someone that could court or even one day marry my sister. So to me, that was like kind of applying to some real world status, like, okay, I see how it's going here. And honestly, Maomao kind of was like, you know what? He's not that bad. He would actually be somebody that maybe Perrin could actually like, because she kind of knows how she is. So even Maomao writes a letter to Perrin like, kind of using her own connections. And not only that, even Jinshi was going to help Lihaku purchase Perrin, because one, he was saying, you know what, my cat likes you, and my cat likes you, and this is a family member that brought her up, that's like a sister to her, slash maybe mother figure. So maybe you would be a good guy to take care of her. There's two things in that situation I do want to talk about. One, the whole this moment here, this anime trope of a character walking in at the wrong place at the wrong time. Personally, I'm still a fan of it. As long as it's written well and still has those funny moments, I actually am okay with a trope like this because it's funny. The moment that Maomao is trying to size him up, all of a sudden, who walks in? Jinshi. Of all the people in the world, it's him. And of course, because of his high status, the guards are gonna let him in, but he comes in and sees this and is like, what is going on here? And we already know the relationship he and Maomao has, so of course, it's gonna bring some confusion. And they really milked out the scene because even after this moment, he's all like thinking Maomao is sizing him up for herself. And then later, Maomao's like, nah, this is all about my sister. And basically talks to Jinshi, which, like I said, I'm okay with these moments as long as it's written well and not just kind of shoehorned in. I still find it funny. And in this moment, I found it was still funny. The biggest thing here is gotta be Jinshi. And leading me to the second thing, I honestly believe this moment was probably a test from Jinshi to kind of check and see how is Lihaku's character. And not only is he trying to be like, you know what, I'm going to fork over 20,000 for you to get the woman of your dreams, and, you know, kind of a little help for Maomao because Maomao is like, you know, this is my sister and is someone that I care about. So of course, because Maomao cares about her sister, Jinshi's like, you know what, I'll help you out because this is someone that was important to Maomao. The fact that he turned down Jinshi and gave such a great speech of saying how, no, this is something I have to do. Like, Jinshi's just blown away. He's like, he did not expect this out of this guy. And I think in this moment, Jinshi was like, wow, maybe this is why, one of the reasons why Maomao kind of talks to him or is okay with Lihaku, because even at this moment, Lihaku won over Jinshi. And even Jinshi's like, you know what, we may talk more in the future. Because I think Jinshi sees the bold character that this guy portrays and may utilize Lihaku maybe in a case or maybe as someone to talk to through military standards without having to talk to Lakin. And it's kind of like building a connection here. Maybe we will see more of their interactions in the future. But the biggest thing is Jinshi walked away from this like, wow, this guy really turned down my money. Yeah, you know what? Good for him. Good for him. And like I said, I fully believe that this was a test, and Jinshi might have, even if this guy said yes, I still believe Jinshi would have given him the money, but maybe Jinshi wouldn't have thought of him as highly as he thinks of him now. And like I said, maybe this is going to be something that's going to be important in the future. Who's to say? But I'm actually glad that Lihaku turned this down. But finally, I'll end on these two small notes. One, this part, the fact that Maomao was still thinking about Suirei. The fact that, you know, it was just the previous episode that Maomao kind of made a declaration of war against her, and it's like, you know what, we're going to meet again in the future, and we're going to talk and have some words, especially with the fact that, you know, Suirei and whomever she's conniving or working with kind of got one over on them. So here she is like, dang it, I thought this would be a good connection about what's happening so she can kind of get more on the underlying story. But unfortunately, it was all the whole Lihaku thing. And finally, why did the Emperor's mother forbid the cutting down of trees? And why was that line added into this story? I think it's to underline, they will in the future talk more about the Emperor's mother. So then that way we can build a character for her and see how she is and how she thinks. I don't think she tried to do it for an underhanded standard, because it wasn't like she kind of knew that, oh, these are the paper guys, I want to screw them over. She probably was trying to do a way to conserve trees to make them more beautiful and such. But the key is that line was added. And I believe it's important to remember this because we might have to come across more talks about the Emperor's mother. Because like I said before, I think whomever's over everything as quote unquote the bad guys, the ones that helped out Suirei and set this whole thing in motion to try to kill Jinshi, might be connected with the pure consort and with the Emperor's mother. Who's to say? But like I said, just remember that that line was mentioned because we're probably going to get more talks about the Emperor's mother and several others as these episodes are soon going to conclude, because we're on episode, like I said, 21. There's only 24 episodes this season, so the ending is coming, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we are very close to the end. But regardless, until that happens, we will continue to talk about this show and how amazing it is, really, until it concludes. But make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys tune in here first. We will definitely continue our review on these episodes as time goes on. But you guys take care of yourselves, be safe, and Lord willing, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Make sure to check out the extra content on our Patreon page, and thanks to our current patrons.
This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.